Once upon a time, in a serene village nestled in the heart of Igboland, there lived a skilled hunter named Okocha. He was renowned across the region for his unmatched prowess in hunting, but his home life was fraught with discord. Okocha had two wives, Nneka and Adanma, whose spiteful and quarrelsome nature made his compound a place of constant strife. The two wives despised each other and agreed on only one thing: their hatred for Okocha's most newest and most beautiful bride. One fateful evening, as Okocha wandered through the forest after a day's hunt, he stumbled upon a young girl sitting by the river. Her beauty was ethereal. Her ebony skin glistened under the moonlight, and her eyes sparkled like stars reflecting on the water. Her name was Urenna. She sat humming a soft melody as she braided her hair, seemingly untouched by the world around her. Okocha was instantly enchanted and approached her with caution. When he asked her about her origins, Urenna did not respond. Shyly, she gestured towards her mother, an elderly woman standing under a nearby odala tree. The woman, stooped with age, yet possessing an aura of wisdom, at that moment revealed to Okocha that Urenna was no ordinary girl. "She is an Obanje," the woman said with a solemn expression. "If you must marry her, if you want to take her as your wife, heed my warning. Never give her a fresh vegetable to eat, or she will transform into palm oil, never to return. So many young men like you have visited this forest asking for a hand in marriage, and the same thing I told them. That I'm telling you too. Never give her ugu leaves to eat, never, and you will live happily with her." Blinded by his affection and convinced of his own ability to protect Urenna, Okocha promised to honor her mother's condition. With her mother's blessing, he married Urenna and brought her to the compound. When Okoro's wives, Adanma and Nneka, saw their husband arrive with the exquisite Urenna, jealousy burned within them like an unquenchable fire. Urenna's beauty highlighted their own imperfections, and her quiet grace made their pettiness more apparent. From that moment, they conspired to make her life miserable. Okocha's absence during the day, a necessity for his trade, became an opportunity for the co-wives' cruelty. They ensured Urenna's days were filled with torment. Whenever the hunter left for the forest, the two women would take all the cooked food and dry staples from the house, leaving only a pile of fresh vegetable, knowing that Urenna is forbidden from eating them. With every passing day, Urenna grew weaker. The pangs of hunger gnawing at her tummy like an unquenchable beast. Urenna endured as best as she could, determined to keep the promise made to her mother and her husband. But her resolve weakened under the harsh reality of starvation. One sweaty afternoon, the two wicked women left her as usual with nothing but fresh ugu leaves and bitter leaves. Overwhelmed by hunger and seeing no other choice, Urenna gave in. She prepared the leaf, the fresh vegetable, and ate. No sooner had the leaves passed through her lips than a strange sensation overwhelmed her body. Her body quivered, and she let out a piercing cry of pain. "Ah!" Tears streamed down her face as she rolled on the floor, clutching her stomach in anguish. The intensity of the pain was unbearable, and she cried out for help. "Somebody help! Help!" but none came. Nneka and Adanma stood by, watching with such cruelty and satisfaction, their laughter echoing through the compound as they mock her suffering. Moments later, Urenna's form began to dissolve. Before the astonished eyes of the other wives, a pool of red, rich palm oil spread across the floor where she once sat. Nneka and Adanma cackled gleefully, triumphant in their cruelty. Unbeknown to them, a little bird perched on the roof had been watching the entire scene. As villagers gathered to see what had happened, seeing the oil, they began scooping the palm oil into their containers. The bird, curious and mischievous, dipped its tail into the oil and flew off, singing.
The oil has fallen on the floor. The oil has fallen on the floor. Some people use their spoon for the eye. Deep my tail on the oil has fallen on the floor.
The bird kept on singing while flying towards the forest. Okocha, who was already on his way back home, heard the song and became alarmed and disturbed. He hurried back to his compound. When he arrived and saw the palm oil spread across the floor and also heard the villagers' account, his heart shattered. Realizing what had happened, he turned on his wives with a fiery anger.
"What have you done?"
he roared. The women's smug smiles faded as they cowered under his wrath. They confessed their misdeed but lacked remorse. Desperate, Okocha gathered the palm oil into a calabash and ran back to the river where he first met Urenna and her mom. Okocha cried out to his mother-in-law, pleading for forgiveness and a way to restore back his beloved. "Mother," he began,
"Please forgive me. Give me the love of my life. I ask you, please return Urenna back for me."
The old woman emerged from the forest after being convinced of Okocha's sincerity. "Okocha," she began, "your inability to protect Urenna has fulfilled her destiny. An Obanje can never be tattered for a long time in a world so full of hatred. Her spirit has returned back to the river, free from pain. Do well to leave the forest, because I cannot do anything for you." The hunter's sorrows echoed across the forest, but nothing could be done. He returned to his compound with a heavy heart and cast away the co-wives whose malice had cost him the love he had cherished most. From that day onward, the story of Urenna served as a cautionary tale to the villagers, a reminder of the consequences of envy and the importance of compassion. As for Okocha, he never married again. Instead, he spent the rest of his days by the river, hoping to catch a glimpse of his beloved Urenna among the rippling waters, her song forever etched in his memory.